Welcome to the Fort Custer Recreation Area, one of Michigan's 103 state parks. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's cold, but there's no real inclement weather going on. Jessie is sitting in an alumni association meeting for her university. Shout out to Ferris State, go Dogs. But I'm going for a hike. I think I win. The Fort Custer State Recreation Area is closest to the village of Augusta, Michigan. So if you're ever checking weather forecasts, you want to look up Augusta. The closest city is Battle Creek. It's not that far from here. And we're about an hour south of Grand Rapids right now. So just give you an idea on location if you're looking this place up on the map or trying to decide if you're going to come into the area, what else are you going to do. There's quite a few different things to do in Southwest and West Michigan, so maybe consider making a trip into this area of the state and doing more than one thing. But even if you come just to Fort Custer, if you like the outdoors, there's plenty to do here. No matter what time of year you come to the Fort Custer Recreation Area, you are going to find people out on the trails. There is a huge network of trails out here. Entire recreation area or a state park is about 3,000 plus acres. And there are miles and miles and miles of trails out here. Very popular for mountain biking, for hiking. They have equestrian trails. You have to pay attention. You have to think about who else might be on the trail with you doing something completely different from you. And there's a whole system that's been established about who has the right of way. So whether you're on a horse or you are on foot hiking, you're on a mountain bike, whatever, you have to be aware of what the system is and who yields to who on the trails. Other people who have hiked out here have suggested that if you are hiking and you're on these trails, because of the mountain bikers, especially in the summertime, you're going to want to hike against the mountain bike traffic so you can be aware of them when they are coming and you can get out of the way. And a lot of times that's because people have noticed that on some of these trails, the mountain bikers don't have a lot of time to slow down when they're coming around a curve or up or down a hill. So you have to be real responsible too and try to do the right thing to stay out of each other's way. Another interesting thing about the trails here at Fort Custer is that they are directional, and it's based on the day of the week. So there are signs posted. So depending on whether you're on the yellow trail, the red trail, whatever it is, check the directional signs. So if you're out here on a bike, you go in the direction of the arrow for that day of the week. And again, as I said earlier, if you are a hiker, you might consider going in the opposite direction so that you are then walking against traffic, so to speak, and you can be more aware of somebody coming down the trail towards you on a mountain bike. I noted earlier that the trails here are all multi-use, and you have to be cognizant of who else is out here, whether they're on a horse, a mountain bike, on their feet, whatever. You have to watch out for each other, and you have to know the rules in terms of who yields to whom. I should note that there are some trails that are specifically marked for not having horses on them, and there are trails that are marked for having horses. So I don't think you're going to be in a situation where you're going to have mountain bikes and horses necessarily trying to share the same trail, but you do have situations where there are intersections, like where I'm standing now. The trail that I just came down, this is the yellow trail for mountain biking, hiking, whatever you're doing. And then an equestrian trail crosses the yellow trail here and continues along that way into the woods. One thing I will give them a lot of credit for on these trails is that the blazes are in great shape. The trail markers as you're walking along, or especially important when you're riding along on a mountain bike, you're moving along pretty good. You need to know where the trail is going to turn. And there's really nice signposts. The colors are nice and bright. You can tell where the turns are at. Each of the identifiers tells you which direction you're supposed to be going based on what day of the week it is. So if you do get turned around somehow, you don't have to try to remember which way was based on which day. You can just look at the sign. And I noticed the map out front that the Mountain Biking Association is involved out here too. So I'm sure they had a hand in it, along with the state, but whoever's responsible for it, nicely done. The yellow trail here at Fort Custer, which is one of the easier trails from all the descriptions I read, actually comes right near the campground. So if you're camping here, you have easy access on and off that trail in particular, which will lead you to the other trails. Driving through the Fort Custer State Park campground, one of the things you'll notice right away is that the sites seem to be pretty large for the most part and tucked in individually. It's hard to say or hard to see in the winter because there's no leaves on the trees, but it looks like there is plenty of growth at ground level in many of the sites. The forest that this is in is what they consider a second growth forest. So you've got some nice mature trees. It's not the original stand that was here, but it's a really nice place to kind of be in the woods, even though you're in a state park campground. One of the other things you will find is if you're here with a larger rig, there seems to be plenty of room to maneuver. The roads through the campground seem to be of decent width, and that's helpful. So if you've got a longer rig or you're pulling a trailer and you need some room to kind of pull forward and then back in, I think you're going to have the space to do that here. This is one where you are getting a power pole for each site, which is nice. This is the first state park we've seen so far that has the 50 amp service available. So the power pole in this site has 50, 30, and 20 on the pole. And I'm sure we're probably going to see some more of that as the state starts to upgrade some of its electrical systems. More and more people are using the big rigs that need that 50 amp service. In addition to the different sizes of sites within Fort Custer's campground, there seem to be some that are kind of more separated on their own. There's some that are closer together, but even the ones that are kind of right next to your neighbors, they each kind of have a feel like their own little space that you're in. And I think it's because of the size of the trees that are here, especially in the spring and the summer when the ground cover is here and you've got these lower trees and bushes and everything are filled out with leaves. I'm sure it feels really nice and kind of maybe not private, but your own little space in nature, even though you're in a state park. And I'd really like to see this place when the weather is nicer and the leaves are out and it's more inviting. And I think it could be a really cool place. No matter what time of year you come out to the trails at Fort Custer, you're going to find people out here using them. In the wintertime is not a time when I would expect to see insects using them, but this little guy is giving it his all. I have no idea what kind of bug that is. A hardy one, I would guess. It's in the low 20s out here today. He's clearly crawling across ice and snow. He's not dormant, or she. Guess I shouldn't assume it's a he. I have to look that little bug up and see what that might be. Most people are pretty comfortable knowing that there aren't any insects to deal with in the winter in Michigan. Guess what? There are. Today, I've seen some people out here on the fat tire bikes. So that looks like a lot of fun, even in the snow, although it's a pretty crusty snow because of the recent rain and ice we've had. You can probably hear my feet crunching as I'm walking on the trail. But I'd like to see about trying some of those fat tire bikes sometime. I think that would be a lot of fun. I've also seen people out here hiking like I am. I just have on boots and some winter tracks. Somebody's been out here with snowshoes. I saw some people with cross-country skis. So it's a great place to come out and spend some time when the weather's decent. I mean, it's cold today, but at least it's not snowing or raining or pelting me with ice. So that's a win in Michigan in the wintertime. I'm hiking the Yellow Trail today at Fort Custer State Park, and it's a 4-mile loop, relatively flat, wide open, see some different environments, but it's a pretty easy hike overall. But there are different challenges here depending on the different trails that you take. And I wanted to show, I'm at an intersection right now where the yellow and the red trail. So if you're into mountain biking and you want something a little more difficult, you can take something like the red trail. And I'll show you, it goes around this curve here, down the hill toward a pond. It's going to take a little more skill, a little better bike probably to do some of these trails. But it could be a lot of fun if you know what you're doing and you're looking for a little more of a challenge. There are several small lakes here at the Fort Custer Recreation Area, and there's a nice big parking lot and a boat ramp where you can drop your boat into the Kalamazoo River. Fort Custer has a variety of environments when you're out here. So there's wooded trails. This is a meadow. There's marshes. There's lakes. There's a river. And with the campground right here, I can see where people would want to come to the Fort Custer State Park, Fort Custer Recreation Area, whatever. Its official title is Fort Custer Recreation Area. It is noted by the state as one of the 103 state parks. But that aside, I can see where people would want to come to the campground and spend some days here. You could get out and do hiking. You can get out on the lakes. You could see all the different environments they have with the marshes and the rivers and the meadows. I just think you could find a lot of things to do here if you'd like to get outdoors and enjoy nature. I would seriously consider checking out this state park and camping here, spending a few days and just seeing what you can see.